But we're going to go ahead and get started. So first off, I want to welcome you all here to our 4th Illinois Monarch Project Virtual Summit. Today's event is called Engaging Monarch Ambassadors, and we're going to be talking about communications and engagement strategies and have a really good, solid agenda that we're excited about to share with you today. But before we get into that, I just want to briefly highlight, I know we have a number of new people who are joining us who this is their first summit event. So just wanted to provide a little bit of context to this summit series that we've been hosting for the Illinois Monarch Project. We started these summits back in October as an opportunity to really roll out the Illinois Monarch Action Plan that we finalized last year. And we've covered a variety of topics. We've gone into detail about the action plan and the types of actions that we hope to be doing to help monarchs over the next 15 years. We had another event focused on the Route 66 Monarch Flyway, which is a special project that we're doing here in Illinois to really promote and engage conservation work, especially around the Route 66 corridor. Last month, we had a deep dive into technical resources that people can use to find out where and how to plant milkweed and nectar plants. And there's additional resources that are available on our website. And in fact, we have recordings from each of those summit events that are available on the Illinois Monarch Project website as well. So just wanted to, again, lay that context that brings us to today, which is, again, talking about the communications and engagement strategies around monarch conservation. So the outcomes that we hope to accomplish today are going to be highlighting some of the best messages and ways to engage others in monarch conservation. So we know many of you throughout your work, both professionally or personally, are engaging people and talking to others about monarch conservation. So we want to give you the tools that we've developed to help you do that work. We're going to spend a little bit of time practicing some of those communication skills to help you build some confidence in using the tools and engaging with others. And by the end of the summit today, we hope to have you in a position to be able to make a plan.
I like how some of these names are Julie's iPad.
Sorry, we have someone.
iPad 2.
Mute yourself. By the end of the summit event today, you should be in a position to make a plan to help engage others. So that's the outcomes for today. The agenda, as you can see, is on the right side of the screen. We're going to have a number of breakout sessions throughout, which is much like what we've done at some of the other summit events. So we encourage you to stay for the full event today. It's going to be very engaging and interactive. We're going to start off with a grounding exercise. Then we're going to talk about framing monarch messages, and then give you some of the very specific action messages that we've created to help, again, frame the work of the Illinois Monarch Project. We're going to talk about the secret to engagement in terms of knowing your audience. And then, as I said, make a plan at the end to help you know your next steps in terms of engaging others. I also want to, here at the start, again, just highlight what we're all working towards. So as I said, the Illinois Monarch Action Plan was finalized last year. One of the key goals of that action plan is that we set a goal for the state of Illinois to increase the number of milkweed stems on the ground by 150 million milkweed by 2038. It's a really big goal. It's very ambitious. It's also a little bit hard to grasp. What does that actually mean? So you can think of it this way. 150 million milkweed stems is roughly about 12 milkweeds per person in Illinois. Or alternatively, you could look at it as 4 milkweed stems per acre in Illinois. But we also know that not every person and not every acre is going to be able to participate in the Illinois Monarch Project. We know some people are going to be able to do a lot more than 12 milkweed stems or 4 stems on the acres that they manage. And there'll be others who can do less. But the point is that we really want to provide an initiative that encourages people to do what they can. And that's really, again, the purpose of the Illinois Monarch Project, is coming together across all sectors to work towards this common goal of increasing the milkweed on the landscape. And that goes hand in hand with also providing a variety of nectar resources that monarchs can use. So as we look to, again, our event today, again, it's really exciting to see all of you here today. I think we had over 125 people registered to attend the summit this afternoon. And you can see on the right side of the screen, that's the distribution of you all across the state. So quite a number of folks in the northern Chicago area, and then throughout the rest of central Illinois as well. As part of the registration, we asked you to tell us a little bit about you in terms of what types of organizations you come from, the role that you play, and why you might be interested in learning more about communications and engagement. As you can see, the graph on the left shows that breakdown. A large number of you indicated that you're either a landowner or land manager, followed second by educators. So maybe you're in a position of doing formal education or maybe informal education or outreach. We have quite a number of technical experts and habitat implementers, as well as folks that are in a community leadership position or marketing and outreach professionally as well. We also asked you what your target audience was, and this is really important for some of our conversations today. And as you can see here, the top target audiences that you've identified is working with home gardeners, private landowners, and youth. So those are three very key audiences and groups that we recognize many of you are already doing engagement work with or hope to do more. So we'll be thinking about that today as we go through some of the exercises. So with that kind of target audience in mind, we would like to move into a poll. So I'm going to pull up our poll here. Okay, hopefully you can see that in front of you right now. So we'd like you to help us learn a little bit more about how you currently communicate with your target audience. So I recognize probably many of you are doing or utilizing a lot of these different types of modes, but if you can identify the couple that you're using primarily, that will give us a good indication of what mechanisms and types of engagement you're using. So it looks like 2/3 or so of you have responded. A couple more responses coming in. Give you just a couple more seconds here to respond to the poll. Okay, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay. Great. So as you can see here, we have looks like it looks like a three-way almost tie. Email is the winner. So about 61% of you indicating that email is a primary method of communications with your target audience. Social media, right up there too, 58% of you. One-on-one conversations, that's great to see. A little bit more difficult these times during the pandemic, but that's certainly a very effective way to engage and inspire folks. Presentations also a popular option. For those of you who selected other, feel free to chat into the chat box what other methods you're using to communicate with your target audience. That would be interesting and helpful to see. Okay. Well, thank you for your input there. And I see a couple of folks saying signage, nature center displays, live caterpillar demonstrations. That's great. So good feedback as we think about, again, different methods of engagement. I'm going to now hand things over to our three facilitators who are going to be walking us through most of the content today. First, we have Andre Copeland from the Chicago Zoological Society and the Brookfield Zoo. We also have Dianne Russell from the Institute of Conservation Leadership, and then Natalie Lichtenbert, who's been a really active member of our Communications, Engagement, and Outreach Committee. And so at this point, I'll turn things over to you, Andre.
Well, thank you, Iris, and thank you everybody for joining us today. I was asked to start off today by sharing why monarch butterflies and monarch butterfly conservation is important to me. And I had to think about it because I've never told this story to anybody else before. Even people close to me have never heard this. Generally, when people ask, Andre, what do you think about butterflies and monarchs? I say, well, spiders need to eat because I'm a spider guy. I'm all about spiders, and so, hey, other bugs are just food for my little eight-legged buddies. However, monarch butterflies took on a different meaning to me a few years ago. And I don't know if you've ever heard an old cliche that says when you marry someone or you bring someone into your life, that life partner, no matter who they would be, you're also bringing their family into your lives. And this was true when I married my better half, Kim. She had a very close family member, her sister, Carrie. They had lost their mother when they were both teenagers and were estranged from their father. And I could go on and on talking about how much Carrie meant to me as well as my children. She was just a wonderful person to the point where I quickly dropped the in-law and Carrie was just my sister. And she would take my wife and my kids out for hikes, horseback riding. Anytime they were upset, she was the one that took them out for the healing power of nature. And went on many family adventures with us. And the greatest adventure I think that we went on with her was her battle against cancer. And she fought breast cancer valiantly for 5 years and lost that fight on a Monday morning. And I'll never forget it because 2 days prior, we had a chance to visit her in the hospital. And Carrie asked me to do something that was extremely easy. She had no idea how easy it was going to be. She asked me if I would watch out for her sister because it was the two of them and she was worried about Kim. And I was like, that's easy. I can promise you that because I already planned on doing that. Can't promise we'll always be together, but no matter what happens, I will always make sure she's okay, even if I have to do it from afar. And I made that promise to her. 2 days later, she passed away. I was on my way to the zoo to do a workshop, sold out. I got the call when I was on 294 right by the Lincoln Oasis. Knew I had to turn around because Kim was here alone. Kids were at school. Came back, hugged her, said, let's get out of the house. And went to do one of the things that Kim loved to do. Go see nature. We went to the Sand Ridge Nature Center, which is on 159th Street, right off 94, about 10 minutes from our house. Walking out there, as autumn's starting to approach, daylight's waning, gray as it is during that time of year, a lot of the foliage is on its last leg, most of it on the ground. And kid you not, out of nowhere, here comes this wayward monarch that lands on this scraggly piece of coneflower. And Kim looks over, and the first thing she says is, that's Carrie, letting me know things are going to be okay. And I had read a lot about how butterflies are symbols of the soul. They can bring meanings and dreams. And I had come across this by taking a look at cultural representations and how culture and nature are intertwined, but I had never really lived that. At least lived that when it was important to somebody else other than just me. And so every time I think about that, I think about the hope that it gave Kim, but also the affirmation a reminder of the commitment I made, and the one thing that I thought in that moment, thought that this had been so beneficial for Kim, and I'm always talking about paying things forward. Might want to make sure that these butterflies are around to possibly bring a smile to somebody else's face. Maybe help somebody else in their time of need, even if it's just for a little bit. And also because my spiders need something to eat. So that's why monarchs mean so much to me. And so I just wanted to share that with you all because as we think about our messages and our audiences and connecting with our messages and our audiences, people have a variety of different experiences and connect things in so many different ways. And this is why we took a look at a lot of different techniques, framing and engaging, and we want to share some of the decisions that we've made with you today. So as we go upon this journey, I can't do it alone. So I'd like to introduce Dianne. Dianne's going to come on board and help guide us through this. And in a little while, we're going to hear from Natalie as well.
Wow. Thank you so much, Andre. That was a really beautiful way to get started. And I know from working with conservation, we often are about the what and the how and the when and the like, we're all about action. But I think really spending a little bit of time right now thinking about why do we do what we do? And your story was so just beautiful and energizing. But I think each of us, as we're communicating, needs to know our why, because our why might connect with another person's why. Andre's why connects with my why, because I always think of my mom. And she was a crazy butterfly person, just day in and day out. But I want to invite everybody who's here with us right now to just take a quiet moment. It feels a little funny sometimes when you're on the Zoom meeting, but I just want to give you a minute to sit and think and maybe make a few notes to yourself about why do you care about monarchs? Why do you value monarch conservation? What is your source of interest in the monarch butterfly? So I'm just going to be quiet for a little bit of time, and then we'll step you through what we're going to do next. Okay, I hope that was useful. Sometimes we're moving so fast, we don't take time to actually take a breath and reflect. So hopefully that was useful for you. And what we're going to do next is we're going to put you into some small breakouts, probably 3 or 4 people per breakout. We hope this is a chance for you to meet some other folks that are also here today and excited about the monarch butterfly. We'd like you to do 3 things in your breakout group, and we're going to give you about 13 minutes or so. So make sure everybody gets a little airtime. Quick go round first to do introductions. Who are you? Where are you? If you're with a group, let folks know about that. And then go around again a second time and hear about why each person's why that person cares about monarch butterflies. And then save a couple minutes at the end to just notice in all of the stories, were there any themes? And when we come back from the breakout groups, we'd really like to hear about any of those themes that you heard in your breakout group. What seemed to be common in your why stories? So I think with that, hopefully my colleague Claudia is ready to send you off into breakout land. Again, you'll have about 13 minutes to visit with each other, 3 rounds, and enjoy those conversations. Terrific. All right. So what we'd like to do next is to help you think about your why and how to connect it with others. And I am going to hand things back to Andre to take us through some ways to think about how to frame our messages around monarchs.
Thank you. So in order to do this, what I'd like to do is want to do a small activity to clear our minds. And I'm going to force everybody to make a choice, pretty much an A and B choice. So what I'm going to ask you to do is to choose one of these doors. If you were forced to choose, would you choose door A on the left that has a 10% chance of you meeting your mortality? Or would you choose door B on the right, which leads you to a 90% chance of survival? So let's see, we're going to put this, if a poll doesn't come up, you can go ahead and pop it in the chat, either one. But here's the poll now, so quickly answer that. Would you choose A, 10% chance at mortality, or B, 90% chance at survival? All right. Wow, so 87% of people chose 90% chance of survival. And would like for you all to type into chat why you think that is. Why do you think most people overwhelmingly chose the 90% chance at survival? Or why you chose the 90% chance at survival? No right or wrong answers. Positive messaging. Seem more hopeful. Somebody said, you know, it's kind of a glass half full, glass half empty type of deal. So one thing I would like to ask everybody to consider as we move on is this statement. So as we move forward, I'd like for you to consider the fact that when you state a message, most often the facts do not change. The thing that changes is the framing of the message. And how the message is framed can actually determine what choice people make. So as we move forward, we're going to see that this basic test, this basic forced choice, is a metaphor for COVID vaccine efficacy. So how many people have heard about the COVID vaccine, Moderna, Pfizer? And if you've heard, they have a 90% efficacy or higher, which means they also have about a 10% failure rate. So basically, no matter which one of these doors you chose, you are going to end up in the exact same place. And as people said, there was something about that framing that did it. It doesn't change the outcome. It doesn't change the meaning. What it does is it changes how people may receive that message. And as I was hearing people talk, some of the things that we were talking about was getting people primed and ready and hopeful to engage in monarch conservation. And there's been some recent research that has taken a look at positive messages versus negative messages and the connection that they have with people. And I don't know if you all remember this, but I grew up really starting to engage in conservation messages back in the 80s, late 80s, early 90s. And I heard a lot of messages such as, oh my gosh, if you don't act today and send us money, all the pandas are going to die tomorrow. And so there were a lot of these shock and awe statements. And what they were leading with was what was going to be lost. Because psychologically, people have a natural aversion to loss. And that's what a lot of times people try to tap into. However, when you take a look at loss and gain framing, there is something that happens psychologically. And there have been psychologists and social scientists that have studied this. Alison Ledgerwood is a great one. I definitely advocate taking a look at her talk, Getting Stuck in the Negative. But even taking a look at Harvard University, as well as in Harvard University tends to focus on some of the feedback that's connected to employee engagement. And there was another study that took a look at marital and other type of relationships. And what they found was that there was either a 6-to-1 or 5-to-1 ratio needed for every bad encounter, for every negative comment that an employee or a life partner received. There had to be 5 or 6 positive encounters or 5 to 6 positive interactions to counter that one negative. And what this starts to prove is that people can get stuck in the negative because generally paying attention to loss can help keep us safe. Now, as we take a look at a couple of other pieces of information, what I'd like to point out is that when we take a look at conservation messaging, sometimes in addition to being negative and loss framed, we may end up juxtaposing taglines with the true message. And this is why framing is important. So if you take a look to the left, water conservation messages may read like this or may have read like this. Think about what will be gone if we don't act today. Wasting water now is wasting our future. So as we look at that, what is the true message here? Is it we need to think about what will be gone if we don't act? Or is it engaging in water conservation? But both of these things tend to have a negative and loss frame of mind. Whereas if you take a look at our trifold pamphlet, it is presented in a positive gain frame. And I think Abby may be on our call. Abby designed this. I see what you did, Abby. But as you open up this trifold, people tend to read from left to right. And so the first message they're going to read in the left-hand corner is that positive call to action. Be a part of the super generation that can save monarchs. Something that's hopeful, uplifting. What are people being asked to do? To help achieve that goal of milkweed stems. Why? And that's where the no milkweed, no monarchs comes in. No milkweed, no monarchs on his own, yes, would be a loss frame statement. But in this context, it is the reason we're asking people to engage in something positive. So what we're trying to do now is help you understand why we have chosen a particular type of framing for our messaging and our messaging priorities. People ask me often, Andre, which is better, loss frame, negative frame, gain frame, positive frame? And I like to rephrase the question and think about which is most appropriate for your task at hand. Loss framing a lot of times works best when people think about personal loss. And so I don't know if you've ever had People's Gas, Nicor, whatever your energy company show up, maybe leave a sticker saying it's time to have your gas meter checked. You may want to check your gas lines or call Julie before you dig. And the reason why is because these types of messages are usually followed up by what can be lost if you don't maintain. Go in for health diagnostics. So that way you don't inadvertently lose your health. Gain frame and positive frame messages tend to work best when studied in medical and utility services when you're asking people to embark upon preventative measures, lifestyle changes, exercise, and you'll reap the benefits of health. And we are faced with these types of messages all the time. And next time you go to the grocery store, I'm going to ask you to do this because I want to still see if the yogurt wars are going on. I used to walk into the grocery store and I used to see these 2 yogurts, 2 different companies, often side by side. And sometimes I would just sit back to watch which one people would choose. Because one yogurt said, hey, contains only 20% fat, where the other one said 80% fat free. And which one do people go with? Which one connects better and has more of a positive message? So as we looked at this is the reason that we chose gain framing. If you take a look at these 2 things side by side, And we pay attention to some of the work by Harvard University and Allison Ledgerwood. If we lead with negative loss-framed messages, especially those that seem astronomical and have these shocking numbers, then people can start to connect with feelings of fear of loss, and at times, if the magnitude is great, it's been proven that people then tend to disassociate. However, when leading with positive gain-frame messages, it opens the door for unity, collaboration, and provides hope. So we didn't want to present this as a way to tell you this is what people have to do. This is right, this is wrong, or this is what you have to think. We are very, very adamant that you are able to walk away believing whatever you walked in here believing, and to totally disagree with these philosophies. However, as we move forward, you see that we've decided to embark upon this type of philosophy because our collaboration is something that is built upon hope, the strength of unity, and moving forward together as an entire state. So would like for you all to consider this. And as we move to the next slide, want to see if you all can take about 12 minutes in breakout groups to think about this question, to think about how you feel about the information that you were just exposed to. And even if it's like, I totally disagree, like I said, this is a safe space and you all can discuss that. Do you feel it's something you can imagine yourself using with the groups or people you talk to? And if so, how might you engage with them? So let's take about 12 minutes to think about that, and then we'll come back and we'll share some of these thoughts.
To thinking some about core action messages that we want to be conveying. And we're going to invite Natalie Lichtenbert to step us through some of those messages, as well as some of the tools that have been created and are available to you. So Natalie, come on board here.
All right, so we know that 150 million stems of milkweed in the ground by 2038 can sound a bit overwhelming. Where does one start, right? So in coming together, we all do our small piece, making the goal quite attainable. We have focused on a simple message to engage our communities. Just 3 simple steps: pledge, plant, and of course, post. I will go through each one of these to get you started. First, pledge. The Monarch Pledge is easy to find on our website, the tab being at the top right of the homepage. This is for everyone, be it individuals, communities, leaders, organizations, and more. There is a section for individuals and a section for organizations. In filling out the pledge form, one acknowledges their intent to participate. Pledges will help us estimate our progress towards the goals set forth in the Illinois Monarch Action Plan. The responses individuals and organizations provide here will be used to inform monarch butterfly conservation priorities and practices in Illinois. So what to expect when signing the pledge? We're showing here an example of the individual pledge. So for individuals, some basic information about yourself, your location, together with what type of monarch enthusiast you are. You will then see a list of possible actions that you are looking to take in the next 12 months or are already in the process of doing. Choose as many actions that apply. Lastly, we will ask just a few follow-up questions based on your pledge selections. For example, the number of milkweed plants or total area, the number of people being reached through your educational event, etc. The questions for organizations are similar, with there being some different actions that you can pledge to take in the upcoming 12 months, as well as gauging your interest in hosting Monarch events in the future. The link to the pledge will be in the chat. So we wanted to congratulate and bloat that the number of pledges that have been taken so far is 574 since May of 2020. 532 of those were individuals, with 42 being organizations. This is a pledge of 14,500 plus milkweed stems so far that were pledged to be planted so far. So step number 2 is plant. Pretty self-explanatory. We just want to get that milkweed in the ground. Even though our goal is focused on milkweed, it is important that we encourage people to plant a diverse mix of nectar resources. Whether it's just a single flower pot or planting a complete pollinator garden, we want to help people get their feet on the ground, so to speak, with our resource tools. Click the resources tab at the top of our main website page, just second from the left. The resource tools are broken down into sectors, including individuals, agriculture, cities and towns, protected lands, and right-of-way. While there is a wealth of information located in this section, we have specific links for planting, including guides on how to plant a garden, where to obtain plants, and so much more. If you can't find what you're looking for right away, do check out the full resources list. In the future, we will be adding other resources, such as caring for milkweed and other pertinent information. Getting on to the third step, post. We are anxious to get the message out, inspire and create a movement, whether it's on social media, newsletters, community bulletin boards, interpersonal messaging through email, or even in-person events in the future. We have your back. Through the messaging tools and tips given in today's presentation, we feel that this positive messaging and encouragement will help inspire others to connect and act as well. We have some pre-made social media graphics seen here that you can download, as well as other collateral. We have some Illinois Monarch Project messaging priorities. First, number 1, we believe taking action now will preserve current and future monarch generations. All Illinoisans can help contribute to our goal of 150 million additional milkweed stems by 2038. Messaging priority number 2, we encourage Illinoisans to take pledges to support monarchs. Number 3, we support participation in monarch-related community science. We promote the Illinois Monarch Project website to increase awareness, build recognition, and make the Illinois Monarch Action Plan more accessible. And lastly, number 5, we inspire those around us by sharing our passion and spreading the word, connecting people to monarch conservation resources, and collaborating with other monarch conservationists. All of these materials can be found on our main page under What's New. Then click on IMP Communication Tools Available Now, and they will be ready for download. In the toolkit, you can find the Illinois Monarch Project Community Engagement Strategy, a summary of our messaging priorities, and some sample flyers and graphics that you can use for your educational or engagement needs. So we will continue to update the toolkit. If you want to go on to the next slide. We'll continue to update the toolkit as more resources are developed. And if we go on to the next slide, you'll see, including any that you develop and would like to share with others within the Illinois Monarch Project Network. So you see that we'll have messaging priorities, community engagement strategies up there, flyers and graphics, as well as the link, as you see at the bottom, so that you know where to locate this communication toolkit. And that's all I had.
That's terrific, Natalie. If folks have any questions, we actually could take a couple in the chat about the materials or about any of the messages that Natalie just reviewed.
A question, this is Qianmei Sun, related to one of the items that Natalie just mentioned about some kind of community science, monarch-related community science. What does that mean, community science?
Community science, you know, originally it was called citizen science, but we're trying to engage all communities, all people. So community science is just basically engaging everybody in your community, you know, from all ages, all nationalities, everybody to participate in getting involved in this project.
Okay.
And
Okay.
some people
I thought
have
it's something with some kind of biology science. Okay, thank you.
Welcome.
Yeah, I mean, there are also things such as tagging and population assessment programs that communities can engage in as well. So again, people are just now using community science as opposed to citizen science programs.
Okay, thank
There's
you.
a question too about what hashtag. Is there a hashtag for Illinois Monarch Project?
Yes, we do, and we will get that in the chat.
I did one of them.
There we
So
go.
we have one.
Bam.
That's right. Hashtag pledge, plant, post.
Great. Someone's also promoting monarchwatch.org as another, I think that's a citizen or community science approach. You can also use IL Monarch Project. Oh, there's the hashtag. Great. Okay. I just have to say, I'm impressed with this little group of Andre, Natalie, and the rest of the folks on the communication and engagement team. They have done just amazing work to create these materials, and I think it will really help spread the network and the message out there. So final question, do you supply the flyer or do we each print this ourselves?
So, okay, the link that we go, if we go, yeah, like I mentioned, you'll see on the main page, there will be, if you scroll down to what's new, you will see the IMP communication tools available now. So when you click on that link, everything will be available for download. So you go right there, download your resources and print it out. So this is exactly where you would want to go on that other slide.
Great. Oh, the best seeds. That would open up a huge question that we're not ready for today, but there's a lot of material on the website talking about seeds and planting and all of those things. Great. Thank you so much to everyone for being so active in the learning process here today. And we actually want to take you into one more activity that I think will set up a very important part about how we communicate. And so what I'd like you to do is to just take another moment to think for yourself about your situation and a group or an audience of people that you really want to engage in your community. So pick that group, get them in your mind, think about them. And then I'd like you to jot down a couple ideas that you have about how you might actually understand their interests and what they care about. And I'm again going to just give you a little quiet time, because once you've done your own reflecting, we're going to give you a chance to meet some other new people and talk about this question of how you might learn about or understand the audiences that you're interested in. Great. I love the engagement. Ned, I did see the picture that you held up, the EDF butterfly. Really appreciate everybody engaging with us. So, okay, I hope you have your audience in your mind. I hope you have a couple ideas about how you're going to learn about their interests, because we're going to put you into groups of about 5 right now. We're going to give you about 12 to 13 minutes. And in those breakouts, here's what we'd like you to do. Go around, introduce yourselves again. This is a chance to meet some new people and learn from their stories. And then go around and talk about, here's my audience, and here's how I think I can identify their interests. And then when we come back, we'll again gather information from everyone who's here. And I am also going to drop your assignment into chat so that when you leave for your breakout group, you've got that there as a handy thing in case you forget. All right, enjoy your breakout conversations, and we'll be back in about 10 minutes. Back to Andre to also help us think about that question of how to actually engage in a way that helps us know their interests. So I'm going to hand things back to you, Andre.
Well, thank you, Diane. And to wrap things up, I'm not going to keep everybody or belabor this point very long, but wanted people to understand a bit about why we asked people to think about audience. And when we take a look at the profession of public speaking and going all the way back as far as Aristotle, the things that you will see represented, whether you're looking at Aristotle, you're looking at Freeman Tilden from the interpretive profession, other aspects of communication, they say that the three things that are needed is for the speaker to have passion about what they're talking about. So getting emotionally invested in that subject matter, but then starting to have enough of a mastery on that subject matter that when you start to present to people, you have enough of it to appeal to their sense of logic as well as their sense of emotion. But the one thing that all of these professions state when it comes to a speaker connecting with their audience is appealing to their emotions and their logic. And how do you do that if you don't know anything about your audience? As we've seen throughout our journey today together, we can choose to wind up in the same place for very different reasons, basically all depending upon how a message is framed. We see that there is a difference in how people may receive messages that are framed negative versus positive. And in order to have these messages connect with feelings of hope and unity, it's a good idea for us to know who our audience is or something about our audience. And some of the reasons that we want to do this, we're going to reveal now. And as we go through this, I'd like for you to type in chat, what are some ways you think that you might be able to recognize who your audience is and how you may be able to start to communicate with the audience. So some of the advantages for doing this are the fact that it stops you from assuming. Knowing who your audience is helps you select the appropriate content that's going to go into your program or your message. It also helps you find the appropriate tone for your voice. And very importantly, it can help prevent you from inadvertently offending someone because you may be able to identify some cultural values they have that may be very different than what you had originally thought. And I started to think about this myself when I challenged one of the things my mother taught me as a child. Usually I would listen to what my mom said and as a kid and be like, okay, as I got older, I'm like, wow, that made a heck of a lot of sense. Should have been listening to mom a long time ago. But there was one thing mom taught me that as I got older, didn't feel right. And it was the golden rule. And you can give a thumbs up if you ever heard that rule, treat people the way you want to be treated. And when my mom said that to me, I was like, well, you know, I kind of get on people's nerves sometimes. So I don't think everybody likes what I like, especially seeing as how I love spiders. And the last thing people would want to do is, you know, take a spider out of my hand. So they're not going to like the same things I do. And I started to notice the differences in people and started to notice that I had much more success engaging with people when I treated them the way they wanted to be treated. And some people want to be treated very, very differently than I do. And so this is why we take a look at that platinum rule. And in order to find out what differences we can celebrate when we go into a community, what differences we can, like I said, celebrate and we can connect with and we can learn from, what differences help us lead to common ground and deeper understanding, these are the things that help us form tighter bonds in unity. And this is why we tend to focus on the platinum rule, and we do everything we can to find out a little bit about our audiences before we ever go in and start to engage with them. So audience analysis can take place many different ways. You can have things that you can put together to send out as post surveys, but sometimes the most effective thing is just to talk to people. And when you talk to people, if you can find a way to get information from them through a conversation, through their community website. When we opened our exhibit, Great Bear Wilderness, back in 2010, we had a lot of poetry that was going to be put in that exhibit that was coming from American Indian culture. And so the best thing to do, I thought, was to call up these tribal councils and ask them how they wanted to be represented, and to take a look at the pieces we were thinking about and to get their feedback. And it was very illuminating when they would talk to me about these things. So we feel that if we connect with our audiences and we do as much as we can, we feel that it primes us to celebrate those differences and to pay attention to diversity, equity, as well as inclusion. So we just wanted to give a bit of background as to why we feel framing is so important, and that framing things in a positive, gain-framed manner is so beneficial in conjunction to the messaging priorities that we've put together in a way that we feel will move this project forward. And in order for these to work, we feel that connecting with your audience, making sure you understand as much as you can about them so as to celebrate their differences and to pay attention to diversity and inclusion is going to help this project be the best that it can be and help monarchs in Illinois. So with that, I'd like to ask you all in chat to maybe list some ways you might be able to find out information about your audience, and let the audience know that you are also concerned with their interests just as much as you are with that of the monarch. So we'd love to hear what you have to say.
So great. Andre's waiting. What do y'all have to say?
That's all right. I know it's late in the afternoon. This is when my brain usually turns to mush as well.
Yeah, it's interesting. The first comment there was about now that we're doing these kinds of conversations and not in person, but in virtual platforms, there are a lot of ways to poll, and that's one way to find. What else are you seeing, Andre?
Oh, I'm seeing that community Facebook pages, you can engage with people through art. And then some people are saying, you know, I just don't really know. And so I think that's the beauty of having some of these summits and seeing ideas from other people. LinkedIn, I'm seeing that might be some good, you know, areas to look at and to take a look at some of those profiles. And maybe some interactive social media posts. So I see people here thinking about capitalizing on different platforms. So I think social media is a way to reach out and engage people, as well as I really like that about LinkedIn.
It's interesting. I think there's so much we can do to research things online now. There's so much information that's available there. And I appreciated, Andre, when we were prepping, you also talked about the value of paying attention to a community when you're going to it, or to a group when you are attending. And it could be that there's nothing online, but there's a sign, or there's a need that you see in their community when you're walking by, or you notice that there are a lot of gardens or whatever, but like paying attention to the environment is another way to collect information as well. A lot of folks are talking about asking questions, paying attention to what people say, and then following up. Yeah, we are missing those informal conversations.
Yes.
I agree. The virtual spaces. So, all right. Well, thank you, Andre, for reminding us about the importance of really knowing our audience and not making assumptions, and using the platinum rule. I am going to remember that. And I'm going to step us into the final thing that we're going to do together here, which is just helping you think about, Andre and Natalie have given you so much today in terms of what's available to help you follow up on your intention to help do everything we can to get milkweed planted and to support our monarchs. So we're curious right now, what might you tell us right now that you're pledging in the theme of pledging, what you might pledge to do to engage other people? No one's going to hold you to this. We're not going to come back, but like speaking what your intention is often is a really nice way to help yourself do it. I know that that's true for me. When I tell a friend that I am intending to take a walk every day, it helps me like, oh, I told that person I want to follow through more. So just share with us things that you're going to do. We got people engaging garden clubs. Whoa, launching a pollinator garden program. That's cool. The link to the pledge, I think we're going to drop that in before we end here, but you could also find it on the website. Reaching out to families with young children, doing public programs, Girl Scouts of America, excellent. Start milkweed seeds and give the seedlings away. How could anybody resist that? Monarch Pledge just got dropped in chat if you want to grab that. Yeah, registering your garden is a good way to bring attention to it, what you're doing there. I know neighbors are often stopping by as I'm working in my garden. That's a really nice low-key way to talk about it. Great. Other things are coming in here. Multi-generational programs, I think that is so cool. Yes, contact your local mayor, right? Like the people who have more access to resources in their community and can help really spread the word. 14 different Sierra Club groups. Yeah, I think this concept is so important because every one of those groups has a different feel to it, a different culture based on where they're at. Facebook page is a good. Yes, Oak Park. I've heard about Oak Park and their Year of the Butterfly, and I know that is coming up this spring, so that will be great too. Excellent. All right. Well, whether you wrote something down or not, landscapers, they are where it's at. Often, getting them to just shift a little bit can help have more plants for our pollinators out there. Food and places to birth their little chrysalises. So, all right, I'm going to hand things over to Iris, who will close us out with what you can expect next.
Okay, thanks, Diane. Thanks, Andre and Natalie. I just dropped our post-event survey into the chat box and encourage you to, again, take the survey. We'll also email it out after the session today. So you'll have that. And we're very interested in hearing your feedback on this event, what we can do to help you going forward, and continue that conversation. So if you have a chance right after the event today, that's a great time while everything's fresh in your head to provide us your feedback, and we appreciate that. Also want to give a heads up that, as I said at the beginning, this is our 4th summit event. We actually have a 5th event coming up in May. May is Monarch Month here in Illinois, and so we're going to use that as an opportunity to have our 5th and final summit-related activity, which we're calling Spring into Action on the Ground. That's planned for May 4th, and I think that's just before the Start Seeing Monarchs Day as well. So May will be a big month for monarch-themed work here in the state, and hope to hear from you and work with you between now and then to continue some of this great engagement and keep the momentum up that we have felt the last several months with this summit. I want to encourage you still to go to the Illinois Monarch Project website. That's where you can find the resources we talked about today. So I'm just going to drop into chat one more time a link to the toolkit that Natalie talked through. All of those resources are available for download. I also dropped in the link to the pledge one more time. So remember, pledge, plant, post. That's going to be our mantra this year to get people engaged and excited about Illinois Monarch Project and the work that we're doing. And again, look forward to hearing from you after this event, at the future event, and keep up the great work. This is a team effort. We're appreciative of your energy and enthusiasm for monarchs. And only through your help are we going to be able to reach the people in every corner of this state and help reach our goal of 150 million milkweed stems. So thank you again, everyone. Have a great afternoon, and we look forward to hearing from you soon.